Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero podcast, a show where I cover the least in the best way possible. I'm your host, Jason Wells. Today is May 8th. Yeah, there truly is not much happening in terms of the NFL and the NFL landscape, but I sat down over the weekend and I planned ahead my schedule basically until week one, and I managed to fill it pretty easily, actually. So I have enough to talk about, and starting with this episode, it'll be the 2020 NFL redraft. And as always, the NFL weekly update. But no, it is the dog days of the off season. We have a little small few free agent signings, some NFL news, and I guess I'll just get straight into it here. We have a wide receiver signing. We got a couple actually, but Odell Beckham Jr. signs a 1-year deal with the Miami Dolphins. I think it was a 1-year, $3 million deal with incentives up to like 8.25. What an incredible job by Chris Greer. What an incredible job by the Dolphins to get OBJ at that number. Who knows if he hits those incentives, but it doesn't matter. The cap hits the cap hit. That cap hit will be at $3 million. And yeah, this is someone that Miami's been targeting now for the last couple months. Chips fell into the places after the draft, and OBJ wanted to be in Miami. Apparently, he had better money offers from other teams, but he wanted to be in Miami, and I think he knows that Mike McDaniel, very, very smart coach, and he will be used in his best role possible for given how old he is at this point, which isn't that old if we're being honest, but in NFL terms, he's a bit of an old man. I'm very excited, though. That gives us Tyreek and Waddle on the outside, OBJ in the slot. And he is a route technician. He runs very good routes. He's not as explosive as he used to be, but he still is explosive. And as a wide receiver 3 on this team, tremendous, absolutely tremendous. In my opinion, the Dolphins have the best wide receiver trio in the league now with Tyreek, Waddle, and OBJ. The only other teams that you can maybe contend are the Bears with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze. Obviously, we don't know what Rome Odunze is at the next level. I think he's going to be fantastic, and you could definitely argue that. The other one I've seen is the Texans with Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. I wouldn't consider that. The only one I would say would be the Bears, but I think Miami clears. I think this is a very good move for Miami. They still haven't used that money. I think we're owed $19 million once Xavier Howard's once that cut finally becomes clear after the post June 1st. And who knows? Maybe we make a splash for Justin Simmons. I would absolutely love that. But this OBJ signing is a good one. We still need an interior offensive line, but I am very, very close to saying that Miami's roster from last year, this year, is better than last year. Very close. I might even say it's better now, but we still got 2 holes to plug up, in my opinion. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Next up, another wide receiver signing. Tyler Boyd goes to the Titans for 1 year. I think it was $4.5 million. And again, Tyler Boyd goes for $4.5 million. OBJ goes for $3 million. Obviously, OBJ has the incentives. I'm sure Boyd has a couple too, but good job, Chris Greer, yet again. So Tyler Boyd, now the Titans' de facto wide receiver 3, I would imagine. They got Hopkins, they got Calvin Ridley, now they have Tyler Boyd. And that means Treylon Burks is looking for a trade partner, I would imagine. Yeah, what a crazy last few years for the Titans it has been. They were looking good. They had A.J. Brown, and then all of a sudden that draft happens, that 2021 draft happens, and John Robinson, the former GM of the Titans, trades A.J. Brown away without letting Vrabel know, and the look on Vrabel's face says it all. Truly a franchise altering trade, and obviously for the worst. AJ Brown is wonderful, and they drafted his replacement, who just hasn't lived up to that hype. He's splashed in a couple games, but he's often injured, and that's been the issue. So hopefully he can find footing with a new team. And I'm just saying this, I don't even know if they will release him or they'll trade him, but he is now fighting for targets on this team. And this Titans team, who before the combine, I think I had them as one of my worst teams, and they've been pretty good. They keep making these moves to get Will Levis like a proper core around him, because right now it looks you got Tony Pollard, Ty J. Spears, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Chiggy Okonkwo, an upgraded left side of the line there with Latham, Skronsky, and Lloyd Cushenberry. The right side, whatever. But if Will Levis is good, and I've said it before, if Will Levis is good, he will have a good season this year. I still don't think it matters for the Titans, but Brian Callahan, offensive coach, he brought in his dad, Bill Callahan, one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. So we will see how it plays out for the Titans, but good signing. DJ Chark is a LA Charger. Not really a ton to say about this move. I don't know what the money was for it, but he might be the most established receiver in that wide receiver room, and that's a very sad thing to say. Like I'm looking at the team, and it's DJ Chark, Lad McConkey. You hope Quinn Johnson. You hope is better than he was last year, and they got like Josh Palmer. Yeah. The targets for Herbert will not be there this year, but this is year one of the Harbaugh and Ortiz regime trying to basically complete 180 on how this offense was ran. So it won't be pretty on the offense this year, but it will be a step in the right direction. But DJ Chark, wide receiver one, that's tough. Couple Raiders signings here. Raiders signed Michael Gallup, former Cowboy, now with the Raiders. I think that puts him at wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. Obviously, after he kind of signed his bag with the Cowboys, he got hurt, never really came back to that form. He signed, I think it was a 1-year, $3 million deal with the Raiders. So now Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Michael Gallup, maybe fighting for wide receiver 3, and then with Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. The offense is taking shape, and the other signing they made was Andres Pete from the New Orleans Saints, former Pro Bowler. I think that they're going to slot him in at one of the guard spots. I'm not exactly sure which one they have. I think it's Thayer Munford, who's their young right tackle, who per PFF, I have no idea. It's hard to really evaluate offensive lines when you haven't watched Thayer Munford or the Raiders offensive line in general, but they said he played pretty decent, so I'm sure that they'll try to let the young right tackle develop into something. But Pete's a good move. He has basically 5 position flexibility on the offensive line, maybe not center, but he can play tackle. He did last year for the Saints. His better position is at guard, and I'm sure that's where the Raiders want to play him. Let's keep going here. Rashad Penny signs with the Panthers, the former Seahawks and Eagles running back. He is back with Dave Canales, who was with the Seahawks for over a decade there. So he is familiar with Penny, familiar with his game. And some fantasy analysts, put that in air quotes, are already saying, oh, watch out for Rashad Penny. He's a sleeper this year. That was me last offseason when he was with the Eagles, being like, he averaged like 5 point something yards per carry back-to-back seasons in Seattle. They were low, but he did it, and then he just didn't play whatsoever. However, he is going into a backfield where there is no defined lead back. They drafted Jonathan Brooks. He's coming off an ACL tear come November. I think he should be good to go week 1. Obviously, they paid Miles Sanders last year. He just wasn't good. They also have Chuba Hubbard, who's solid, I guess, and now Rashad Penny. So Penny will be looking to probably battle for some RB2 snaps. It wouldn't shock me if Miles Sanders is a cut candidate. I think they can just basically get him off the roster and they don't save any money, but it's net positive, I guess. So we will see. We got a retirement. Duke Johnson, former running back, retires after an 8-year NFL career. He spent four seasons with Cleveland, 2 with Houston, 1 with Miami, and 1 with Buffalo. Yeah, Duke coming out of Miami. I remember because these are some of the first drafts that I really remember getting into, and Duke Johnson was one of those guys who I think he was a second round pick. He was definitely a day 2 pick. Had a couple good years, but when you're playing with Cleveland for the first 4 years of your career, it's tough to really break out. But no, it makes me feel old that now that these guys that I remember in like high school, kind of like scouting up and writing up, like are now retiring, and it's only after 8 years, so it's not like it's not crazy. But yeah, Duke Johnson is out of the league now. We have some very, very stupid news. Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is under investigation for hitting a photographer at a Dallas nightclub. Obviously, if you're wondering, it's like, oh, Rashee Rice, where have I heard that name before? He is the man who is facing 8 criminal counts for dangerous driving, amongst other things. So yeah, so he's back in the headlines now for supposedly hitting a photographer at a nightclub. I'll keep saying it. It's sad. I don't understand how, like, especially him. You got drafted to the best team in football, the Kansas City Chiefs. You had a phenomenal rookie year, like really coming into your own in the playoff run and the Super Bowl run. And you're setting up where you win a Super Bowl your first year as a rookie, and you are Patrick Mahomes' #1 wide receiver right now. And that's how you spend your offseason, where I think the last thing I read about Reishi is it's looking like a minimum 8 games. I don't know if this pushes it to a full season, but man's got to get his head on his shoulders. Like, it's literally, it's all there right in front of you. Like, the life for you and your family that you've always dreamed of, and generations past that. Because he's probably he could end up making $100 million. I don't know about that anymore, but you got to figure it out at some point. You got to figure it out. Who knows if he will, but we'll keep moving on. Not really notable news, but notable for me because I'm a Canadian. Former MOP Nathan Rourke of the BC Lions has been waived by the Patriots, and just found out a couple hours ago that the Giants picked him up. So the Giants now have a new QB1 on their team. And I've made that joke before where it's like, Nathan Rourke, the best CFL player, he's now the best QB on this team. Haha. He actually might be for the Giants. Like, Daniel Jones stinks. Drew Lock isn't good. I'm just saying, if Nathan Rourke comes in there, looks good in training camp and practice, and you never know. You never know. I was kind of hoping that the Red Blacks would make a jab at him, would make a play at him, but alas, it is unfortunate. But Nathan Rourke waived by the Patriots, picked up by the Giants. Couple more notes here. Jake Bates in the UFL. So I mentioned him before. I think he kicked a 65-yarder and a 62-yarder. He just hit another 60-yarder. So this man will probably have a bidding war for him going once the UFL season's done and once training camp's officially open. Yeah, someone's going to pay him a lot. There was a couple teams this year who drafted kickers. I don't know why you would draft a kicker when you could just be like, here, I'll give you $4 million to be my kicker. I have no idea if that's a lot of money for a kicker. It sounds like it is, but either way, if the guy is nailing consistently 60-plus yarders, get him on my team right now. J.J. Watt hints at a potential return for the Texans. I think it was at his charity softball event in Houston where basically he brought up where, hey, if you really need me, D'Amico, I'm staying in shape for one more year. If you need me down the stretch, if you like think you could, I'll be there. Which I think that is fantastic. Who knows if the Texans will need him? But I think they should just do it anyways. If they're in a good position spot that and they have the ability to go on the run, like JJ Watt at this point in his career, and he did it a lot during his career, can play on the inside. You don't need him off the edge. It's great that he can do that, but at this point, you can have Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, and then JJ Watt in the middle with I don't know who their defensive tackle is. They signed someone. They signed someone new, but that would look pretty good. That would look pretty good. I'm still holding out hope that J.J. Watt makes kind of a playoff run. That would be fun because I miss J.J. Watt playing football. It is what it is. Last note up here. Best friends C.J. Stroud and Micah Parsons. I don't know how that relationship really happened, but they have been homies and they're doing a ton of media together. And I think they do a podcast together. And Micah has his own podcast. Whatever. I digress. But they are in Japan currently, and they were doing some work with some sumo wrestlers. And this 17-year-old sumo wrestler, like, went against Micah Parsons, but did not move, like, did not budge. Parsons could not push him, like, 17. Now, I don't know where they get these kind of guys from, and I mean, they start him at a young age doing the sumo, and let's get some NFL coaches over there to take that 17-year-old and be like, hey, want to try to learn to play football? I don't know how good their footwork is, but their base, they will not move. They will not move. You get them cleats on. They were both barefoot, granted, but you give him cleats and he can dig into the ground and hold his base. I like it. I like it. Those clips have been great though. Sumo is just, it's one of those, it's so impressive, and people just think, oh, it's a bunch of big fat guys, like, rubbing bellies. I think those are some of the strongest, like, lower bodies, like, on the planet. And they take it seriously. They take it very, very seriously over there. That'll do it, though, for the NFL Weekly Update. Yeah, I guess let's get right into some 2020 redraft. So yeah, we are now 4 years out from the 2020 draft. At the time of the draft, COVID was at his peak. Everyone was inside. This was a Zoom draft. How could we all forget Roger Goodell's chair? And those were the highlights from the draft. It was on Zoom, and I remember being ecstatic because we just drafted the QB of the future, Tua Tagovailoa, and maybe that changes this time. So how I did this, so obviously there was trades on draft night. I don't care. If the trades were made, the trades were made. I don't care that it's a redraft and teams would do it differently. Sucks to suck. So if you're a New England Patriots fan, you don't have to worry about this. You don't have a pick. You gave that away to the Chargers. They took Kenny Murray. Terrible pick, but alas. Yeah, let's get right into it. So the Bengals are on the clock, and they do the exact same thing that they did before, and they take Joe Burrow out of LSU, coming off his Heisman season, coming off his national championship season. There truly was no other pick, and obviously he's lived up to that height. He's made it to a Super Bowl. He's been one of the top 5 quarterbacks, I'd say, over the last couple years in the league. So yeah, the Bengals stay put. They make no change. With Washington now on the clock, they took Chase Young originally, and they are obviously changing up that pick because at the time it was a luxury pick. Actually, it wasn't a luxury pick, but they had Montez Sweat, they had Jonathan Allen, they had Daron Payne, and at that point they did not have a quarterback. If I remember correctly, they made the playoffs this year with Taylor Heineke. Maybe Carson Wentz was their quarterback at that point. Either way, they didn't have a quarterback. So they draft Justin Herbert out of Oregon. A lot of people were scared when Justin Herbert was coming out that he was basically what Bo Nix is, where it's, oh, he makes the throws, but when you put it all together, does it really matter? And jury's still out on that, in my opinion. Herbert has obviously, his highs have been incredibly high, but his lows have been low, and he's been rather consistent, but we haven't seen those highs now for a couple years, and that comes with the play calling and the players around him. He's still a top 10 quarterback in this league. But he hasn't hit that superstar level that some people think that he already has. He has not. But yeah, he goes at number 2 here. Easy pick. Washington finally has their franchise quarterback. Yeah. The Lions now are on the clock, originally taking Jeff Okudah, and they are taking Justin Jefferson from LSU, who just finished that season with Joe Burrow. Yeah, so this was before Jared Goff got there, so they still had Matthew Stafford for one more year. And he was throwing to Kenny Golladay, who got hurt, and Marvin Jones and TJ Hawkinson. Maybe if he gets Jay Jettas, that Lions team's looking a little better. They're rebuilding. Maybe they keep Matt Stafford, and maybe things, I don't know. We don't know where things go. Maybe the Rams don't make a Super Bowl, but this is what happens in a redraft. Things get changed. But yeah, they finally get Matt Stafford, a receiver, since Calvin Johnson, basically, and he would have been great to watch with Matt Stafford. Yeah, I don't think, like, we all know that Justin Jefferson, top 2 receiver in the league, top 1 receiver in the league, if we're being completely honest. The best player of this draft class currently, but QBs always have more positional value, and I still considered positional value when doing this, because why would I put a tight end in the top 15 when who really cares? There weren't any tight ends that I could put in the top 15, but you get the point I'm making. At number 4, the Giants selected Andrew Thomas, where shaky start for him. He has leveled off, and he has been very, very good, but they end up going with Tristan Wirfs in the redraft, who went in the mid-teens to the Buccaneers. Would have been a good pick either way for them, but Wirfs from the get-go was immediately very good right tackle in this league. He made the switch over to left tackle last year, was also incredible. So he's been an all-pro. Yeah, pick the all-pro player for the Giants there. At number 5, the Miami Dolphins are on the clock, and I had my choice of, do I go another quarterback? Do I take Jordan Love? Do I take Jalen Hurts? And no, I'm sticking with Tua. In a redraft, knowing what we know, does it make a ton of sense? Yes, I would say it does make a ton of sense. Jalen Hurts obviously has that run to the Super Bowl, and he was phenomenal that year, but he kind of petered off last year, and he was good, but he wasn't great. Jordan Love, this was the first year we got to see Jordan Love, and I really like Jordan Love, but we've seen half of a season of him playing top 10, very, very good football, and I'm expecting him to continue that, and I'm sure that he will. But Tua, for the last 2 seasons, has commanded a top 5 offense in the league, and I think that he's only going to get better. Coming off a devastating hip injury in college, and he got thrown into the fire way too early with the Dolphins. I think Flores, who, while still being the coach in 2020, was a bitter, bitter man. He did not want Tua, and the franchise kind of forced his hand. And then he put Tua out there when he wasn't ready. There was no real reason to bench Ryan Fitzpatrick. And then he started playing with him, playing with his emotions. I think I've said it on record here, but I'm still of the opinion where if Justin Herbert was drafted to Miami, he would not have worked out, because what was around him, he would not succeeded. I don't think he has the mentality to be an underdog. People disagree with me, but Tua has overcome that, and he has been excellent, and I continue to believe that he will get better. So Tua stays the pick at number 5 here. At number 6, the Chargers, obviously taking Justin Herbert. They take Jalen Hurts. Yeah, I mean, I just talked about it. Hurts has been a top 10 quarterback now for the last couple years. He had that crazy 2022 yeah, 2022 season, which eventually landed him in the Super Bowl. Had a great Super Bowl performance, but they played the Chiefs and they played Patrick Mahomes and their voodoo magic, so it didn't matter. Uh, Chargers still get their quarterback. They just have to figure out a little bit of a different route. Hire Greg Roman 4 years earlier, and maybe it'll be a little different. At 7, Carolina. Carolina originally took Derek Brown. In this one, they're getting their quarterback. They're not playing around. They get Jordan Love here. Now, redrafts are a little tough for me because obviously, like looking back, Jordan Love was not ready to play year one. That's why he sat multiple years behind Rodgers. And if you were the Panthers at 7 and you were like, okay, we took Jordan Love and you just expect him to start immediately, probably wouldn't have worked out too great. But this is kind of off what we know. And we know that Jordan Love is going to be a very good quarterback in this league. And it is what it is. So yeah, the Panthers take Jordan Love. They finally get a quarterback that I wouldn't say they're still searching for because they think that they have their guy right now, but yeah, still they don't have to search anymore anyways. And now they don't trade DJ Moore away and he can play with Jordan Love and that would be a great duo. The Cardinals are up here. Cardinals originally take Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker, and they end up taking Andrew Thomas, the left tackle out at Georgia. Yeah, the Cardinals, again, they needed tackle help. In this offseason anyways, they brought in Jonah Williams. They drafted Paris Johnson last year. And now, boom, they have Andrew Thomas. They don't need to draft one of those guys or sign one of those guys. Yeah, Andrew Thomas, top 10 tackle in the league, in my opinion. Yeah, so he goes to the Cardinals. Jacksonville here. Jacksonville takes CeeDee Lamb instead of CJ Henderson in the redraft. CD, one of the top 5 receivers in the league. He is excellent, excellent, excellent. And yeah, Jacksonville at this point, Gardner Minshew was the starting QB, but would have been a little bit better for Gardner if he was throwing to CeeDee Lamb instead of, at this point, was DJ Chark was actually like pretty good, but either way, they get CeeDee Lamb, who's top 5 receiver in the league at this point. Can't argue against that. Keep it going here. Also, I don't have who they originally took. I'm just going off the top of my head. And I think I'm doing pretty well so far, but I think I'm going to... Nope, I remember. At number 10, Cleveland, who originally took Jedrick Wills, now take Jalen Johnson, corner, who just got paid this offseason by the Bears. That would have put Jalen Johnson with Denzel Ward and really bolstering that defense. Wills has been fine as a tackle in this league, average, I would say, but yeah, adding another cornerstone to this defense where I think that the Browns were starting Terrence Mitchell, who, fine player, but we all know Terrence Mitchell isn't Jalen Johnson, and would have set up their defense very, very nicely for that 2020 season where Baker had the best year of his career and then got hurt. But Browns get Jalen Johnson. At number 11, we have the Jets. And the Jets took Mekhi Becton, the mammoth of a man out of Louisville. But in the redraft, they take Brandon Ayuk here. Give Sam Darnold an option. But I'd say that Brandon Ayuk is in my top 10 receivers right now. Very, very good player. Obviously, if he goes to the Jets and he plays with Sam Darnold, who fucking knows? But Ayuk is awesome. He will get a bag shortly, I would imagine. Yeah, he goes to the Jets. At number 12, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, who took Henry Ruggs originally, and we all know what happened there. But in my redraft, they go with another wide receiver, and they go with T. Higgins. T. Higgins probably should have been a first-round receiver in this draft anyways. He goes to fill that Amari Cooper role that the Raiders left, Is Derek Carr still the quarterback there? Would have been a good fit. They drafted a wide receiver, obviously. Now they get the one who didn't kill a woman and her dog. Yeah, T. Higgins, very good player. I don't know if I like doing this. Like, I think the redraft's good, but like talking about it because it's like hypothetically, I don't know. Like T. Higgins, like it makes sense for that, but it's like, oh, the Jets took a tackle, but it's what we know, and I don't know. I'm getting too in my head about it. At number 13, this is where the Bucks took Tristan Wirfs, and they are now taking Antoine Winfield Jr., the safety out of Minnesota, I believe. Yeah, so he ended up being on the Bucks. They drafted him in the second round, but now they get the All-Pro safety here at 13. We obviously know how it would have worked out for Antoine Winfield, and that would have been fantastic. So he stays in Tampa. They're happy about it. At 14 now, the San Francisco 49ers select Derek Brown. He was a top 10 pick. Falls a few picks out of this, but Derek Brown is great. He just got a bag. He's probably in my top 10 defensive tackles in the league. And this was the offseason where the Niners traded DeForest Buckner away to the Indianapolis Colts. So instead of Javon Kinlaw, they draft Derek Brown. And Derek Brown, it took him a little while to get going, but now, I guess last year was year 4. He was clicking, he was humming, he was looking good. So yeah, and pairing him next to Eric Armstead and Nick Bosa, and I guess it would have been Javon Hargrave, but they probably don't pay Javon Hargrave if Derek Brown. Whatever. Again, trying to figure out how this would have worked out and played out. God help me. At number 15, we have the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos would have selected Jerry Jeudy, and in this one, they get interior defensive lineman Justin Matabuke. Yeah, so at this point, I don't even know what the Broncos were really doing. Who was their quarterback? Drew Lock would have been there. Was Drew Lock starting for them at that point? He might have been, which not good. Build up that defense. Build up that defense. Matabuke would have been playing with like Draymond Jones and Bradley Chubb. I think Shelby Harris was there too, but we all know what Matabuke ended up being. He ended up being an All-Pro this past season. Signed a big deal with the Ravens. So yeah, he goes to Denver in this. At 16, Atlanta selected A.J. Terrell, and I almost had them take A.J. Terrell again, but I had them taking instead L'Jarius Sneed. And I was a little torn here. I was like, okay, do they take Terrell, who it has worked out, and Terrell has been very good, or do they take Sneed, who I think right now Sneed is the better corner than A.J. Terrell, but A.J. Terrell had a much higher peak. I think at one point for me, he was probably a top 5 corner in this league. I don't think that anymore. I still think he's a very good corner, but right now I give the edge to Sneed. I think it's very, very close though between that, but Falcons still go corner in this one. 17, Dallas. Dallas would have taken CeeDee Lamb at this pick, and this pick they still get another wide receiver. It's Michael Pittman. He just had his best year of his career with Gardner Minshew and the Colts, and obviously he had Dak Prescott throwing him the ball, so I think he would hit that peak a little earlier. Very, very good receiver in this league. Honestly, I probably should have put him to the Raiders and then T to the... Because I think Michael Pittman's a better receiver than T. Higgins, if we're being honest. Either way, I'll keep going here. Miami is on the clock at pick 18. We originally take Austin Jackson Jr., who... Picks worked out, kind of. Took a very long time to get here, but this past season, Austin Jackson was solid, and he got rewarded with a pretty good deal. But in this, we go with the proven commodity, and it is Michael Onwenu, who ended up going to the Patriots, who can play. They wanted to play tackle this year. He got paid to play tackle this year, and I think he's like a good tackle, but he is a very, very good guard. And either way, Miami just needed offensive linemen who could play, and he would have been one of them. Obviously, we did draft Austin Jackson, but it took too long for him to get there. So I'll go with Michael Owenu. At number 19, the Raiders originally selected Damon Arnett, who has since been arrested. Actually, both guys from the Raiders draft class this year got arrested, which is crazy to say. But in this one, they take Trayvon Diggs, the ball hawking corner. Yeah, they just really picked a bad corner at the spot. Like, this was still when Mike Mayock was the GM. This might have been when Antonio Brown got signed to them. I think that makes sense. But yeah, so they come away with T. Higgins and Trayvon Diggs in this one. And if Mike Mayock would have done that, he might still be the GM there, which is crazy to say. But yeah, Diggs goes to Las Vegas. At number 20, Jacksonville originally selects Travis Etienne. That sounds right. The running back, but in this one, they go with A.J. Terrell. So they drafted C.J. Henderson at number 9. Ended up with C.D. Lamb, and now they get A.J. Terrell. That's a hell of a draft, if you ask me. 2 all-pro players. Yeah. And that would have put... Because A.J. Terrell, or was Jalen Ramsey there yet? I think Jalen Ramsey was still in Jacksonville? Maybe? I don't know. Maybe? I don't know. We'll keep going, though. Philly, who originally took Jalen Reagor, bleh, awful pick. They go with safety Xavier McKinney in this one. McKinney, I think, was named an All-Pro this year, signed a big bag with the Packers this offseason, making him one of the highest paid safeties. And obviously, we all know the Eagles' secondary woes. That doesn't happen if you draft Xavier McKinney, so they draft Xavier McKinney at the spot. At number 22, the Vikings select Alex Highsmith, the Steelers' edge, and they would have taken Justin Jefferson in the spot, who obviously goes all the way at number 3. But yeah, I have Alex Highsmith going here. Very, very productive edge, obviously opposite TJ Watt. In this version of the NFL, he'd be playing opposite Danielle Hunter. Hunter missed this entire season with a neck injury, but Highsmith has been a very productive player over the last few years for Pittsburgh. So yeah, he goes to Minnesota here. At number 23, the LA Chargers originally select Kenny Murray, and they are going with Jonah Jackson, guard. Yeah, the Chargers just need offensive linemen. We know this, where it's 4 years in the future right now, and the Jets still need offensive linemen. Not as bad as it was a month ago, but still need offensive linemen. Jonah Jackson has been a very solid, dependable guard, Pro Bowl player at one point in his career. The plays dipped off, teetered a little bit, but still very solid, dependable player, and still has a long career ahead of him. This might be my first stumper. New Orleans. Who did New Orleans take in at pick number 24 in 2020? Because I don't think it was Trevor Penning. It might have been Peyton Turner. I don't like that I'm looking. This is the first one I actually have to look. 2020 NFL draft. I think it was Peyton Turner. Or it's going to be someone who it's like, oh, of course. Nope, I was wrong. It was Cesar Ruiz. My bad. The center, I think, out of Michigan, but in this one, they are going with another interior offensive lineman. They're taking Robert Hunt, who Miami took in the 3rd round. Robert Hunt got a bag from Carolina this offseason, deservedly so. But in this one, he goes to New Orleans. And yeah, starts from the get-go. Good player. He's always been a very good player. I can say that. Number 25, the Niners are back up. They originally take Brandon Ayuk here, but in this one, this is where I get a little wacky with it because I don't really care, but I'm going with Isaiah Simmons. Now, this might be me refusing to admit that Isaiah Simmons is a bust. But yeah, I don't think he is. So he got drafted to the Cardinals, who didn't know how to use him. They used him all over, which he can. He can. He was that athletic. He was supposed to be. He's a tight end eraser. He's a blitzer. You can play him at safety. He was a do it all, but they didn't give him a position. They just kind of let him, all right, you go play football. They didn't have a plan for him. They didn't have a plan for Zaven Collins either when they drafted him. They didn't have a plan for Hassan Reddick when they drafted him. If you sense a pattern with the Cardinals here, they're bad at drafting linebackers. But yeah, to me, if Isaiah Simmons falls to the Niners at the spot, and the Niners with D'Amico Ryans would have been their linebackers coach at this point. Robert Saleh would have still been there, and you give them Isaiah Simmons, he would have been the best linebacker in the league. Just I know this is all hypothetical and made up at this point, but I'm not giving up on Isaiah Simmons, the football player. He's now with the Giants. Just signed an extension with them after getting traded there this past offseason. Small extension, but it's baby steps from him. He's learning to replay his position again. But man, if the Niners would have drafted him in this draft, it would have been chef's kiss, amazing. At number 26 here, we have the Green Bay Packers, who originally select Jordan Love. Jordan Love now off the board. There is no other QB to sit behind Aaron Rodgers. So let's get Aaron Rodgers what he truly wants, and I'm going wide receiver here, and I am drafting Henry Ruggs. Yes, we all know what happened to Henry Ruggs when he was in Las Vegas. Got really drunk, driving way too fast, ended up killing a woman and her dog. Terrible story. If he gets drafted to Green Bay, I don't think that happens in Green Bay. I know, Las Vegas, Green Bay, like they're still big NFL markets. But Henry Ruggs had all the talent, all the speed, and you put him in an offense with Aaron Rodgers still in his prime, and Devontae Adams. It would have been incredible. I think MVS that year had almost 700 yards for Rodgers. I'm sure Ruggs would have got close to 1,000 instead. But yeah, Ruggs going to the Packers here saves his NFL career. Yeah, sad fucking story for him. And that's why I'm worried about Rashee Rice. But regardless, we will keep moving. Oh, I fucked up. No. Oh, God, I gotta pause this. Okay, we're back now. So yeah, my issue was that I had Alex Highsmith listed for Seattle at their upcoming pick here, which obviously he went to 22 in the Vikings in this universe, so had to pause it, do some on-the-fly changes here. So now at number 27, Seattle originally take Jordan Brooks. They are now selecting Jonathan Grenard, the edge rusher. He just got a bag from the Vikings this offseason. He finally had his breakout year. I think he had 12 and a half sacks or something like that. So he goes to Seattle, that has been lacking a pass rusher for a while now. Hopefully he can get that started there. 28, Baltimore originally selects Patrick Queen, and that pick stays the same. So Patrick Queen took him a while to get started at the beginning of his career. Then they trade for Roquan Smith, and he becomes one of the best linebackers in the league, paired with him, obviously. There's a reason he still kind of falls that low, is because we don't know what he looks like as his own guy, as him being the number one. He's now with Pittsburgh. We'll see how that works out for him. But yeah, I don't think the Ravens regret making that pick. Took him a little while to get there, but he got there. That's what matters. So Patrick Queen staying at number 28 to the Ravens. At 29, we have the Tennessee Titans, who originally took Isaiah Wilson, who I think played like 10 total snaps in the NFL before getting kicked out. That was one of the wild things from this draft, and I've heard stories now since, but like teams, like coaches and like management and stuff weren't meeting face to face with players. It was all over Zoom. And so over Zoom, it's hard to get a read on a person, especially when, they might have people off camera or have like post-it notes like that you can't see to help them out with stuff. But yeah, the Titans did not see the character concerns with Isaiah Wilson, and then it's basically as soon as he showed up to camp, where it's like, who the fuck did we just draft? And there's a reason why he was out of the league within a year, basically. Talk about someone who is like, at least with the Rashee Rice stuff, like he's doing bad things, like criminal type stuff. Isaiah Wilson is just an idiot. Like there's no other, like he's just stupid. Yeah. He's very stupid man. But yeah, 29 here. The Titans instead take Austin Jackson, who instead of going 18 to Miami, he falls here. And as I said, Austin Jackson, we knew he was going to be a developmental offensive lineman when he took him. It just took him a while to get there. Obviously, bumps and bruises and some injuries along the way, but he finally got there, and he is a solid tackle. And again, we just saw what the Titans' offensive line looked like. Not good whatsoever. They get a tackle. Might have taken them a little while to get a tackle, but they picked one here who just didn't play for them. So Austin Jackson would have been the better pick, even if he was bad on the field. At number 30 now, Miami selects Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. Yeah. This is the pick that I wanted originally. They took Noah Igbenogany, who is now maybe on the Cowboys still. We needed a running back desperately on top of just other things. So I still followed Miami's draft plan for this first round. We got our quarterback, we got offensive line, and instead of drafting a corner that Flores wants and couldn't develop, we get a proven running back instead of having Patrick Laird out there running for Miami. I think this might have been Duke Johnson's year in Miami, or next year was Duke Johnson's year in Miami, I think. But yeah, it was Myles Gaskin, Patrick Laird, Salvin Ahmed. Yeah, give Tua a running game for his first year. Give Ryan Fitzpatrick a running game for the first year, because Tua, again, should not have played at all that 2020 season. Two more picks here. The Vikings on the clock. They originally selected Jeff Gladney. They took a corner, I know that. They took Jeff Gladney, yeah, who I also think is out of the league, got arrested, might have killed someone, or is he dead? Sorry, that little grim to just end on that. Yeah, no, he did die. Yeah, died in 2022, 2 years after being drafted, yeah. Yeah. He, again, another sad, got drafted. He had a domestic violence case. It got dropped, and then got in a car accident a year later. Yeah, so the Vikings in this universe, they go with Kyle Duggar, the safety. Kyle Duggar is one of, honestly, my favorite safeties in the league. It's just unfortunate he plays for the Patriots, but talk about a chess piece, talk about someone who can be off-ball linebacker, blitzer, good in coverage. Kyle Duggar does do it all. He's not fantastic in coverage, but he is a very, very fun safety and fun football player, and I'm sure would have given that defense a little bit of a kickstart. Now, this kind of leaves the Vikings, because I was looking at 2020 rosters, and the Vikings started Jeff Gladney and Cam Dantzler this season, both rookies who they drafted in the 2020 draft. And there was no corners for me to really take at this point, so they're just going cornerless, apparently. But they take Kyle Duggar, who is a secondary player. So, and with the 32nd pick, the Kansas City Chiefs select Josh Uche, another Patriots pick here. Hasn't, again, signed a very, very small deal with the Patriots, but he has been almost a 10-sack guy for the last couple years. Put him in KC, he would have been opposite Frank Clark. He would have been playing with Chris Jones. And he's still, he's developed into a very nice player, very nice pass rusher. So he goes 32 here to the Chiefs. And that'll do it for the redraft. I think I didn't miss anyone or anyone big. I think obviously towards the end there, so what I originally had was Alex Highsmith again to the Seahawks, and then Jonathan Grenard to the Chiefs. And then I didn't know, and I was just kind of scrolling looking for guys, and I'm like, Josh Uche. I like that guy. I like that player, so that's who I went with there for that final spot. Yeah, that'll do it for this episode. Yeah, I guess coming up, so my next few episodes are going to be tier ranking episodes. So I'm not going to do player rankings because the nuances of trying to rank like 25 guys and talk about all 25 guys, it's a little boring. Like, so I'm going to tier rank. I'm going to have tiers for all the position groups. And talk about it that way. So I'm hoping to go through 3 positions an episode. So I think next year next I have a schedule. I can literally just look it up. So for next week, I'm doing QB and O line, QB, O line, and coaches. Then running back, wide receiver, tight ends, interior defensive line, edge, and linebackers, and then defensive backs, safeties, and kickers. So yeah, I got to. So it won't be a set number of each like amount of players, but as I'm thinking of guys, I'm tossing them into these tiers. Yeah, but I have basically my whole summer scheduled and mapped out. The Hall of Very Good will come up end of June, I believe. Mid-June, actually, mid-June. But Hall of Very Good, I'm probably gonna lower. I think I did 5 for each position. I think I'm gonna nominate. There's gonna be more nominations and more people to talk about, but I'm only gonna select 3 people per thing because if I go 5, I might run out relatively quickly. So I'll lower it up. Go 3 new players per position. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode. If you've liked this, as always, please like, share, retweet, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And until next time, peace.